Hi everyone, it's Ed from Runnable. It is Tuesday morning, it's my long run morning. So I got up earlier this morning, but not early enough. So I think I'm going to have to split the run up again, so I'm going to have to do a bit of lunchtime. But I'm hoping to do about a half marathon this morning, so I'm at my midway point at the moment. So I try and do my long runs on a Tuesday morning, so that leaves Saturday free to do my speed work, the park runs or a race or something. So Tuesdays normally the day I try and get up a bit earlier, but I'm really struggling at the moment to get out. I don't know if you guys are, or ladies. It's really hard with it being dark and cold, but it's not as cold today. It's a bit there was an amazing red sky earlier, which I've took a picture of, which I'll show you in the video. And yeah, I've got an old shoe on, one of my firm favourites, Blast from the Past. Still performs really well at this kind of thing, long runs. Just got to be careful with this shoe. It's not stable at all, and when I was running in it in the dark, you know, I did realise I had to really concentrate on my footing. And this shoe is, let me show you, yeah, Prime X Strung original. Well, it's the Strung original, it's not the Prime X original. I have got a pair of the Prime X originals. They're even less stable because the material's very loose and it doesn't keep your foot locked in. This, at least, the Strung material keeps your foot locked in. Great shoe, great for doing long miles. You can really pick the pace up in this shoe as well. It's really, once you get over the stability and the issues with your potential issues with your ankles, it's a real weapon where you can just put your foot down and motor. But for long runs, it's really good because it keeps you nice and cushioned. Just got to always be mindful of your foot strike. Always be mindful of the ground. You know, if it's uneven ground, you just got to be really careful with the shoe because you can turn an ankle so easily. I've done it a few times actually. It's not put me off them because I love them so much. The bounce, the fun aspect of this shoe is unrivaled, really. I mean, Cielo in more recent times has been up there, but apart from maybe the Cielo, it's unrivaled. Even the Prime X2 didn't quite have the same magic. It's a lot more stable, more practical shoe, but lacks the kind of magic and fun of the original. Anyway, that's all I want to say now, because I've got to get moving. I've got to get finishing my mileage because I've got Teams messages and meetings to attend to. I'll see you later. No rest for the wicked. And this shoe, as some people would say, is complete fire, and it's a banger. And in my words, it's a winner, baby. See you later. Bye bye. Oh yeah, I've got to say, anyone who's used the Prime X Strung, or even the 2, put in the comments whether you like them or not, how you use them, whether you use them for long runs like I'm doing, or you race in them. I've raced in them. In fact, I hold my 5k PB in this very shoe that I've got now. And it's still there. It's, you know, it's half a year old now. Did it in the summer at Burgess Park. I think it was 1713. So this shoe can absolute motor. But anyway, let me know in the comments if you like the shoe, if you're curious about it, or you know, if you've got it, how you use it. And I think you can still get the odd pair online, you know. So check it out if you're interested. Have a look online, eBay or vintage. You might still be able to get the odd pair. Lots of people couldn't handle the stability issues of the shoe, so they ended up selling them or not using them, and then they eventually selling them maybe. So you might still be able to get a pair. Anyway, see you later. Bye bye. So it's been quite a while actually since I've used the Prime X Strung in earnest, and I think it's one of these shoes that because of the, you know, how unstable it is, unstable even, they're not a shoe that you can use for lots and lots of different types of runs, but for this run where I'm basically doing circuits of my park, which is pretty flat pavement pathways, perfect. And I'll often bring this out when I'm marathon training. So with London, sort of 15, 14 weeks ago, I can never remember which it is. These are ideal for these long runs because they've got a really nice bounce and propulsion about them, good energy return, really cushioned. So at the end of a long run like this, and I'll have probably done about 30k, which I've been naughty. I was only meant to do 27 today. Slap on the wrist then. Well, I've done it in 2 bits, right? So I did the bulk in the morning, 25k, and then I've just done 5k at lunchtime. Got stuff to do, meetings to attend, so can't go any longer, nor should I. You know, you don't want to risk injury. Thank you. It's nice when people let you pass like that. So, going back to the shoe. For those that are lucky enough to own this shoe, absolutely perfect for these long runs. And yeah, really, like I said, bouncing, propulsive. Those rods and the Light Strike Pro, really aid you and assist you on these kind of runs. And you always feel like you're going quicker than you think you are in these shoes. So I've done a very slow run today, but my pace is averaging below 5 km, and feels like I've been going slower than 5 km the entire run, to be honest. So just shows you how effective these shoes are. It's just the 2 issues I have with this shoe. The stability issue, which means you can't use them on any kind of unstable terrain, cambered pavement, that type of thing. They're tricky. Cornering's dreadful in these as well. So if you're racing and you want to use these, it can be quite tricky going around corners. That said, I still have my 5k PB in this shoe, which is quite remarkable given all the shoes that I've been testing this year and last year. It still remains at 17:13 Burgess Park run in the Prime X Strung. There's a video on that somewhere that you can watch, but it's one of my first videos I did. But yeah, incredible shoe really, and it was kind of an innovation shoe, a prototype if you like, where they just shoved a load of technology into the shoe and saw what worked and what didn't. And in this case, a lot of it worked, and it became a firm favourite of a lot of people. Became almost like a cult this year, a bit like the Super Blast, where you had a real following of people who adored it. Not quite as much as the Super Blast, because not as many people can use this as can use a Super Blast because of the stability issues in this shoe. So if you're a heel striker, it's a big no-no, this shoe. The heel slants, and it's not meant for heel striking. You can tell that just by looking at the geometry of the shoe. But if you're a forefoot striker like I am, it comes alive. And a really nice bouncy cushion ride to get you through these longer miles. So I'll be doing quite a few long runs in this shoe, along with the Cielo, along with the Super Blast, along with the Nova Blast. Basically any shoe that gives me a bit of assistance along the way, I'll definitely be using. And this is where the water covered the ground. It's all now mud everywhere. It makes it slippy. But that's the other good thing about this shoe. The Continental rubber is so grippy that going over here is not too bad at all. And then the final thing, if that wasn't enough, the durability of this shoe as well is off the charts. It's up there with the Super Blast for durability. I've hardly made any indent into the tread of this rubber, outsole rubber, this Continental rubber. And I've done over 300 miles in this shoe. I've done marathon and race, plenty of races in this shoe, and still nothing. And this version of the Light Strike Pro is such a dense foam. It can feel slightly firm at first, but when you break it in, it feels lovely. But because of the density, absolutely no bottoming out, and it takes ages for this foam to degrade and start to get less bouncy. In fact, I'd argue after 300 miles, it's probably better than it was day one, which is saying something for this foam and how durable it is. Just needs some breaking in, as those that use the Prime X2 will vouch for. It can feel a bit firm at first, but once you break in that Light Strike Pro, previous version of it, not the new version that's in the Pro 4, it feels lovely and really nice and responsive and bouncy. I've said that a few times now, and just a lovely shoe. Guess my only downside of this shoe, apart from stability, is the upper, which is scratchy, strung material, which I can see even now with one of my toes. It's causing a bit of rubbing on the top of my toe, because it also has a bit of a low volume. That can happen, so your toes can take a bit of a pounding in this shoe as well, which is not ideal. I remember at the end of the marathon I did, Boston Marathon, in this shoe, I had some black toenails, so it's not that friendly an upper in terms of flexibility and moulding to the shape of your shoe. It rather constrains your shoe and can be a bit scratchy if you need a bit of extra volume. So those with super wide feet and that require a lot of volume in your shoe, you may want to give this one a miss. And I suppose the final point, talking about giving it a miss, is whether you can even get this shoe now. Because of the Prime X Strung 2, it's on very limited release. Although if you Google it, you can still see the odd place have the Prime X Strung, and even the one before this, which is effectively the same shoe but without the strung upper, and arguably a nicer upper. But yeah, you can, I think Start Fitness have that one in some sizes. So for me, one of the best shoes I've ever run in. If you can get over any ankle issues that you might have, if you've got strong ankles, it's a great shoe. And even just going up this hill now kind of pushes you forward. It's so bouncy and so compliant, but in a good way. You don't sink into the foam. You get a little bit of a compression and then decompression straight away, very quick. And that's why it's a rapid shoe for those shorter distances as well. I'm guessing sweet spot is somewhere between 10 and half marathon. Marathon is a long way to concentrate with the instability of the shoe, making sure that your foot strike remains solid and secure. And a lot of people like me start to drift back when they get towards the marathon, end of the marathon, and that can be a bit of a nightmare in this shoe. Anyway, that's all now. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye. Hi everyone, it's Ed from Runnable, and this is my long run review of one of my favourite shoes of all time. And I know I say that every now and again about the Cielo. Well, this came before the Cielo, and if anything, because of nostalgia, is possibly my favorite shoe of all time. It is the Prime X Strung. Its full name, Adidas Adizero Prime X Strung. So there was a Prime X original that came before this, but this was the first version to have this strung upper, this strung like upper. You can see where it's all woven together. So some stats for those that don't know about this shoe. Some stats. So it was it was the first shoe, I believe, to be illegal in terms of a stack height of over 40 millimeters. So this was the first max cushion super shoe at 50 millimeters. So completely smashed all the rules and regulations by going way over the 40 millimeter limit. So we had a 50 millimeter stack height in the heel. We had a 41.5 millimeter stack in the forefoot, giving you an 8.5 millimeter drop. So quite a high drop as well. So it did feel rather strange walking around in this shoe when I first got it. You do get used to it, but it's not a good shoe. If you're thinking about a shoe that you want to get to make you taller and walk around in it, it's not a good shoe. You can't walk very well in this shoe. But it comes alive when you run in it. Now, it's actually not too bad in terms of weight either. It's around about 260. So it's comparable with the Super Blast, with the Balos, with the Neo Vista, also the Mac X2. And I kind of feel like it's got similar use cases to all of those shoes. So I like to use this for my long runs. And there's quite a few reasons why I like to use this for long runs, but there are some caveats to remember. So one of the reasons I like to use this for my long runs is how cushioned it is. After a long run, my legs feel great in this shoe. If you can imagine doing a 20 miler and that pounding on the pavement and the toll it has on your legs, well, this absorbs a lot of that, all the shock waves that would shoot right up your legs. This absorbs it, this mass stack. It also gives you back a ton of energy return. So when you run in this, it really does bounce you forward. So it's kind of a perfect shoe for going long in because of those reasons. There are some downsides though. So one is obviously stability. As you can see from the heel, it's quite a narrow heel. And look how it slants one way, right? I mean, to be honest, does that look stable to you? If you're a heel striker, I wouldn't go anywhere near this shoe, and that's a fact. I have problems with my toes in this upper, so it's you do get some room in the forefoot, but it because of how this strung material, which is really scratchy and really it's not very malleable, right? It doesn't move with your foot. So as your foot expands, this doesn't really expand. It keeps your foot tightly wrapped in, and that can cause rubbing on your toes, which I've had a lot in this shoe. So the upper, even though it was a kind of groundbreaking at the time, and they did a lot of research with a lot of Adidas did with a lot of their athletes, which they said was a combination of all their needs. They said it would provide good structure and keep your foot nicely locked in. But in reality, I think it may well do that, but it's not the most comfortable upper. And it's one now that actually, having used the Adidas Pro 4 recently, and that upper is so much nicer than this upper. I see this now as pretty much a downside to this shoe, and I would hoping that they discontinue the strung upper in the next version, the Prime X3. So the upper is not one of my favorites, but actually it's not terrible either. I do get decent lockdown. In the tongue, you've got this nice little tongue pillow, so you can cinch the laces down quite tightly. I don't think they did that in the second version, which was quite annoying actually. And I had real problems with laces biting into my foot on the second version. But on this version, it felt a lot better, and I got a lot better lockdown than I did in the second version. So all in all, passable upper. The outsole is one of the best outsoles out there. It's got this continental rubber, I've used this for over 300 miles, and look at the tread. I mean, it's still there, man. It's not wearing away, which is an amazing sign of how durable this is. Normally, I wear away the tread in the lateral part of the foot because I'm landing here quite often. And it's not happening. Really, it's not happening at all here, which just is testament to how good this outsole is. And it's been one of the best outsoles for a number of years now, and it still remains so. And I went over some slippy terrain today, whereas yesterday in the Mac X, not yesterday, day before in the Mac X, I was sliding around. The same bit of pavement today, this went over, no problem whatsoever. It's probably slightly less slippy today, to be fair, but a great outsole. And you can see, sorry, I know it's quite muddy, I haven't cleaned them, but you can see the rods, carbon rods here. And they're still there. I think the 2.0 rods that are in this, it might be 1.0, but they're there to match the kind of design of your metatarsal. So you can imagine these are the rods here. They're kind of like this to match your metatarsal. So the carbon rods, they splay very much like your feet and toes do. And so it feels quite natural. It feels more natural, I think, running with rods than it does plates. And that's why I quite like the Pro 4 as well. It feels quite kind of natural with those rods. The carbon rods, they work in terms of working with the Lightstrike Pro to add that extra bounce and that propulsion. So yes, and like I said, the midsole Lightstrike Pro to this day still remains one of the best foams. Sorry, lost my wording there. Foams in terms of durability and bounce. It's very dense foam, so it can feel a little bit firm sometimes. It needs a bit of a break-in period, but once you break it in, it feels lovely. And because it's firm, it lasts forever. So I've had people that have used this and the second version, and they're up at 700 miles. And it's still going strong. And the only other shoe that I can think of that compares to that is the Super Blast with the FF Turbo, and the second version with the FF Turbo Plus. And this again is a firm, dense foam, although slightly more hollow. This is slightly heavier. So you get a lot of good durability out of this as well. It's slightly, like I said, heavier, so it can feel a bit bottom heavy sometimes. This shoe, the Prime X Strung 2, definitely feels bottom heavy, but you do get such a nice bounce and energy return that it kind of makes up for that. On a flat course, on a flat route, this is a flat, straight route. This is an amazing shoe as well. So that's all I want to say about the shoe. All in all, great shoe for going long in. Like I said, max cushion, feels pretty comfortable apart from some issues on my toes. It's quite low volume as well, so your toes tend to touch this material and you get a bit of scratching. It's got amazing energy return, so when you run in this shoe, you don't feel like you're going as fast as you actually are. It's one of those kind of shoes that's very deceptive. I've used this for racing, and get this, right? This shoe still has my 5K PB, which I set in this shoe in August, I think it was, 1713. I'm trying to get ahead of myself here. And since then I've run in the Pro 4s, I've run in the Edge, I've run in the Sky Paris, I've run in the Alpha Fly, I've run in various different shoes, and none of them have broken the record that this shoe has set at 5K. So not only is this really good for long runs, but this is a fabulous racing shoe. Again, with the caveat that you can handle the instability of this shoe, how unstable it is. Your ankles sometimes, when you're going around bends, can feel like they're going to fall over, collapse on themselves. I've gone over on my ankle in this shoe several times. I used to take this through woodland, and I've stopped doing that now because I realise I'm walking a tightrope basically and causing potential ankle ligament damage every time I put this on. So I stick to pavements that are flat. It's not very good on the camber, this. So ideally flat and good condition pavements, and this will really fly. If you have any races where there's long straights, lack of turns, lack of tight cornering, this shoe is an absolute weapon. As I've explained, it's got my 5K PB for those reasons. So I think this, I'm not convinced you can still get hold of it. You might be able to. You could certainly get hold of the original one. In Start Fitness, they've got the original version of this, which, arguably I might even prefer the upper on that one. But this one's quite hard to come by now, I believe. You can still get it on the odds site, but they may try and rip you off because of, it's very hard to get hold of. I think, but it's well worth it. If you can get hold of this, it's well worth it. If you've got no stability issues, it's a really magical shoe that you can do long miles in. You can race in, and you can just have fun in, as long as you don't break your ankle, right? So, absolute blinding shoe. What are its kind of rivals, competitors for long runs? Well, obviously, an obvious option is the second version, the Prime X2. Far more stable shoe. As we can see, it's got a wider heel. Sorry, I'll get that. It's got a wider heel. Often looks wider depending on which way around it is. But if I put them this way around, you'll see what I mean. Yeah, it's got a much wider heel. It's got a wider landing area. The only downside with this shoe, as opposed to the original, is it's heavier, and that's why a lot of people, they actually, when this came out, they weren't overly pleased with the changes. They made it heavier, they made it firmer, and they took some of the bouncy magic out of this shoe. But what they did do then is make this shoe, something that everybody could use. Because it was a lot more stable than this shoe. And I know that sounds laughable, given that it still has the 50mm stack, but this shoe is far more stable, and you can take this on far trickier terrain than you ever could this shoe. So that's the Prime X2. That's another option. You've obviously got the king of the long distance runs, which is the Super Blast, many people's favorite shoe of all time. I've used this on plenty of 20-mile runs. It performs really well. I would say it's right up there with one of the best shoes you can do for your long mileage, use for your long mileage. Highly recommend this. If you can get hold of it, or the second version. It's not that easy to get hold of. And then finally, I think we've got my favorite is the Cielo, which you can use again for racing. So similar to this shoe in the sense that you can do your long mileage in this shoe. It feels really good, nice and bouncy, gives you that propulsion and energy return, just like the Prime X Strung. But this one, again, you can race in. I think this is more versatile racing in the sense you could do 5Ks up to a marathon in this. This would be a challenge at marathon. I have done a marathon in this. I've done the Boston Marathon, and it was a challenge. Just because you have to concentrate so much on your foot strike, and that can have a mental taxing effort on your brain. As you can imagine, you start to tire both mentally and physically. It's hard to keep kind of like concentrating on your foot strike for the whole 26.1 miles or whatever it is. So I would tend not to use this, although having run in it today, I was half thinking, do I give it another marathon? Am I that mad? But probably I won't, but you never know. It's such a good shoe to run in. So that's all I want to say today. Great shoe, great for your long mileage. If you can't get hold of this and you've got the Prime X2, that's also really good. And those other shoes, the Cielo and Super Blast, are all amazing shoes for doing those long miles. Hope you found that useful. Hope your marathon training is going really well. Put in the comments any other options that I've missed. I'm really talking about those shoes that give you some assistance when you're doing your long mileage. So I know there's plenty of shoes like the Nova Blast, like the More V5, all those kind of shoes that would be good, nice and cushioned for long mileage.
but they don't give you the kind of assistance energy return that these shoes do to make it those long runs more enjoyable. So that's all I'll say for now. And obviously, if you like what you're hearing, if you like my channel in general, please subscribe. I'm trying to grow my audience. I'm now, I think, over 300 subscribers, which is amazing. I've only been going three and a bit months. And, I love every one of you. It's great to get the comments. I really enjoy replying to you all. And for those that are training like me, keep smashing the mileage, and we'll keep sharing, our journeys together. See you later. Bye-bye.